Hey everybody, and welcome to our webinar today. We're going to give everyone just a couple more minutes to get joined, so bear with us as everybody gets joined here, and we will get started here in just a moment. All right, looks like we have a lot of people filing in, so we'll go ahead and get started here. I'm Jen. I am the VP of Marketing for Glew, and we're so excited to have you join us today for our webinar. We're really excited about this topic. I know it's a big conversation piece right now, migrating from UA to GA4, so we're very excited to bring you experts from some of our favorite partners and agencies. So today with us, we'll have Littledata and Swanky on with us as well. Just a couple of notes. You probably noticed when you logged in that you have a console there. There are a lot of different interactive features available with On24 for you. One of the things that you can do is if you want to expand the screen to make it larger, each piece within the console is customizable to you. So configure it however makes you happiest. You can also as well access the deck. There's a copy of it within the content section if you prefer to look at the content that way as well. And we will be sending around a copy of the recording tomorrow, as well as the slides. So if you would like to share it with any of your colleagues, you'll have that available for you tomorrow. And one of my favorite features about On24, which we're going to get into right now, is the polling questions. So we're just going to get started by getting a general sense of how everybody is doing right now in their migration process. So I'm going to pop up the polling question here. So you should be able to just pop right in and select your answer. The first option is, if this was a pop quiz, we'd fail. 2, we've talked about it, but don't know where to start. 3, we have a general idea, but haven't started. Or 4, we're on our way, but want to learn about best practices from others. So we'll give everybody just a moment to get their answers in. I know personally we're getting started at Glew, so I'm excited to get everything connected and over. All right. Okay, so it looks like we have about 12% that are saying if this is a pop quiz, you'd fail. 18% that said they've talked about it, 12% that have a general idea, and then the overwhelming majority, which is good, and where we are as well, is at the 56% mark. So on your way, but still want to learn best practices, which is great, because that is the whole premise of why we are here today, is to share best practices with you. So just a quick review of our agenda. I'm going to turn it over to all of the experts here shortly and let them introduce themselves to you. We're going to do a quick overview of Littledata, Glew, and Swanky, just so that you have a feel for all the companies that are on the call today. We're going to talk about when you should be starting your migration, the primary differences in the reporting structure, and then, of course, some best practices for migrating. And then we'll be talking about how Littledata and Glew can help to assist you in making this migration as smooth as possible. So without further ado, I will turn it over to our amazing presenters today. So Meg, we will start with you.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. My name is Megan, and I head up the sales team at Glew, and I'm excited to talk all things GA4 today with you guys.
Hey everyone, my name is Nick. I lead the technology team here at Glew, as well as specifically on the integration side. So all things data and integrations. So happy to be here today.
Hi, everyone. I'm David from Littledata. I oversee client services at Littledata, and we've been working with quite a few merchants in the last few months to help them migrate it to GA4 successfully.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tom from Swanky. I'm the head of data and analytics. We work with lots of different Shopify Plus brands across Europe, North America, and Australia.
Awesome. So just a little bit about Glue and who we are. So all of my different clients, most of them, they have a ton of different integrations that they use to power their business. So I think that's one of the great things about Glue, and really the value is our integrations. So we have over 160 different integrations. I would say most of my clients use anywhere from 10 to 26 different apps to kind of power their business. So obviously having all of that silos of data can be problematic. So that's really where those integrations that Nick has been amazing at building. So you can connect, Shopify, Google Analytics, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, NetSuite, all the good stuff. And they all connect to the intelligent data warehouse. So what's valuable about that is, like, as you guys know, you can't just take data from your Shopify and blend it with Amazon data. It'd be awesome if you could, but it just doesn't work that way. It doesn't have the same revenue preferences. It doesn't have the same data schema. So once it goes through our proprietary ETL, then you're able to blend that data together. And from there, we have 3 different solutions that we provide our different clients. So the first one is our starter. So that's an absolutely free service. You can connect 2 integrations. You can connect your e-commerce cart and then also your Google Analytics. And there's about 20 different metrics that you guys have access to. Pretty cool if you're just getting started with your online business. It's a great free solution. And then our Glue Pro is our out-of-the-box solution. So that opens up about 30 of those different integrations. You can connect your data. And within 24 to 72 hours, you'll have 200 plus KPIs and metrics. I think I've actually been with Glue since the beginning. So all of the different metrics that are in our Glue Pro have been given to us from customer feedback. And Glue is specifically designed for e-commerce merchants. So I think that's, super valuable: customer lifetime value, customer segments, product performance, a lot of really valuable stuff. And then lastly, we have our custom reporting. And so that just enables you guys to really have the ability to build whatever you want as long as the data is available. So we bundle in a BI tool, Looker, which you can then connect to the intelligent data warehouse and then create, more of those dashboard look and feel. So that's a little bit about Glue.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing this. So more about Littledata. We are the complete server-side tracking solution for modern D2C brands on Shopify and BigCommerce. At the moment, thousands of merchants on Shopify and BigCommerce leverage Littledata's tracking to capture all of their enhanced e-commerce data from Shopify or BigCommerce into destinations like Google Analytics and Facebook ads, or even segment.com. And one of the key values for Littledata is that we provide out-of-the-box server-side tracking for all of these brands with 0 maintenance required. This means that brands can get up and running within minutes. They can get Shopify and GA to match one-on-one in terms of conversions, and in the same process have complete marketing attribution details captured with each conversion, so that very easily marketers can know exactly where customers are coming from, which campaigns are performing the best, how customers are behaving on site, and then how users are converting through the checkout process, or if they're not converting, how they can reach out to those with the ability to build very strong audiences based on our server-side data. Brands will continue to own their data in destinations like Google Analytics or Facebook. And from there, they can also downstream the data into destinations like Glue for more powerful insight analysis, as well as audience building. So this is all on Littledata so far.
And then a bit about Swanky. So we're a leading Shopify Plus agency. We've been running for just over 10 years now. We got into the Shopify ecosystem quite early on. We've now got around 80 employees across the UK, France, and Australia. We were one of the first agencies to be accredited as Shopify Plus experts. And since 2012, we've launched over 90 Shopify Plus stores. We offer quite a wide range of services. So we do a lot of kind of new website builds and migrations from other platforms. And then we also do quite a few different kind of retained services. So we specialize in CRO, paid marketing, email, SEO, and more recently, we've been heavily investing into our analytics offering. So yeah, we've been working a lot more closely with Glew and Littledata for the past few years. We've been working with a lot more subscription brands recently. So yeah, Glew and Littledata have been a really, really core part of our kind of data tech stack. We've needed to track kind of LTV metrics, both in GA, but also, you know, directly in Glew, monitoring kind of which channels are best at acquiring customers. So that's Swanky.
Awesome. So as everybody knows, everybody's here. Universal Analytics is going away. So I was actually on a call yesterday and somebody was like, when is it again? And I was like, July. So everybody mark that on your calendar. I think it's a great, obviously, if you're here today, you're already on your way. So in a couple months, it will be going away. Universal Analytics 360, they will still, you have a little bit more time, but I know that most of the merchants that I work with are on Universal Analytics. So that is going away July 1st. And then just a little bit about when you should start that migration. I would definitely recommend as soon as possible. So even if you were to go ahead and set up your GA4, you still have access to your Universal Analytics. So I feel like there's really no reason not to. And I think one of the biggest things, I was playing around in a GA4 account, is, you know, it's very similar, but I think the biggest thing is just making sure you set up the different metrics that you need to track. So I would go ahead and get started now, because while you still have access to Universal Analytics, you want to see, you know, what are my top metrics that I use every day that I look at, and make sure that you get those set up in GA4. So I definitely would say the sooner the better, just to give yourself time to, you know, really make sure you have everything the way that you want it. And some of you guys may be asking why. I think, sorry, there we go. So just if you think about it, so Google Analytics, they first released Universal Analytics back in 2005, which I was actually in college. I was trying to think where I was at that time. And obviously the way that you purchase online was a lot different. You know, it was mostly just the desktop web, whereas now, if you look at purchasing, you purchase on your cell phone, on your tablet. Some of the bigger stores, they have their own app. So, you know, GA4 was released just so that we could have the cross-platform insights, so that you're able to then, you know, track all of that and really look at the way that people now purchase, which is a lot different than back in 2005.
Awesome. Now, GA4 obviously comes with a great deal of additional benefits, and GA4 will enable you to answer strategic questions in a very efficient manner. First, by allowing you to collect and enrich first-party data in a privacy-safe way, so that first you can link customer touchpoints across multiple devices, see exactly how engagement is performing across platforms, and measure all of that in a more unified and holistic journey in GA4 by connecting all of the data sources in one place. Second, another useful thing with GA4 will be that you're going to be able to derive more powerful business insights just by leveraging, for the first time ever, Google's machine learning to understand where customers are coming from, to use the data-driven attribution models to see campaign performance, and overall to automate and, very importantly, facilitate insight discovery. And once all of this business insight has been found in GA4, obviously you want to take action on it, and you can activate these insights using Google Ads and push all of this data in the cross-channel marketing platforms that they're using as well to increase your returns on investment. Now, of course, GA4, as you may have seen already, comes with a set of new reporting capabilities. For the first time, you have access to unsampled data and insights in a very easy to understand user interface where you can customize everything, where you can edit reports. You can really make GA4 your own by editing the tables, editing the reports in the collections, however you want it to be, in order to make data as easily accessible for all of your team members. And even more so, with now that you have access to, or you will have access to Google's machine learning, you'll be able to also leverage this to find additional answers and automate insight discovery so that you can use their ML for predictive metrics or for audience building to supercharge the integration between between GA4 and Google Ads and feed data to those prospective buyers who are most likely to purchase. And all that, of course, is designed so that you have more tools to get value from your marketing efforts. Again, you can build audiences in a very targeted way. You have a lot of additional levers to use in order to build custom segments and audiences based on user behavior on site. And this is where having a complete or a complex data tracking setup is required so that you can feed GA more data about your visitors in order to activate those insights. And of course, having all of this additional data in GA4 and all of these features will allow you to get to analyze your data in a more advanced way. For the first time ever, you're going to have a direct integration between GA4 and Google BigQuery so that you can enable advanced analysis for purchase probability, conversion paths, lifetime value. And I think this is something that can be very valuable for someone who is analyzing performance across all channels and needs to understand exactly which marketing moments have the heaviest contribution for conversions and how they can double down on spend. Now, with a correct tracking put in place for your Shopify or BigCommerce store to your GA4 destination, the aim is to track the entire customer journey. It's important to know exactly which marketing campaigns drive traffic to your website, how they are behaving on your site, if they are purchasing a certain type of product, or if certain campaigns have a tendency to reflect into a certain cart to detail rate or purchase to detail rate as well, and overall give you the complete visibility or in-depth analysis to understand marketing performance for your business in one place, which again, you can also push into other destinations like Glew to facilitate additional insight discovery and supercharge business insights as well.
So in terms of actually kind of migrating, just going to kind of zip through these. I think you said 56% of people have kind of already gotten started, which is great because there's not long left. So yeah, I'm going to talk through these steps. I think one of the initial things to kind of future-proof your setup is just consider the account structure. So GA4 differs a little bit. We don't have properties and views. The kind of default is you have a single property, but there are options for kind of different data streams. 360 accounts do have an option for a sub-property, which is essentially a kind of filtered subset of the main property. But yeah, it's worth just thinking about kind of, are you running multiple brands? Are those brands spread across different domains? Kind of just thinking about even like kind of how do we want to report to different stakeholders? Do you want all of that to sit within one property? In terms of creating the property, it's pretty straightforward from the account admin section. When you go to create a new property, the default option now is that Analytics will just create only a GA4 property. If for some reason you want to create a Universal Analytics property today, you do need to kind of explicitly select that option. And then as soon as the property is created, you then have some options for what data streams are relevant for your brand. For most of us, it's going to be web. However, if you are tracking within an app, there's kind of an Android or iOS app option. As soon as you create that data stream, there'll be questions about which kind of enhanced measurement events do you want tracked. So these are automatically configured events that are captured within the kind of out-of-the-box tag that Google have developed. One of the things I'd really highlight here is disabling form interactions. We found that we get a lot of false positives. So if you have that enabled at the moment, maybe just review kind of understanding how many users are seeing this form interaction. Are there lots of false positives? If there are, then consider disabling it. And then once the kind of stream is created, you then have the measurement ID for that stream. So that's the point where you want to be putting that into your tag manager implementation, or if you're using an app like Littledata, that's where they'll ask for the for that measurement ID, and that's kind of all that's really required for setting up Littledata. And there are some settings under here that are really helpful to familiarize yourself with. So particularly under the kind of the tag settings admin, there are things like referral exclusion domains. So any kind of checkouts, PayPal, whatever would be listed here. And any cross-domain settings as well would need to be recorded here as well. And then a few other options like internal traffic filters by IP address. These are listed under the tag, as well as session timeouts. So the default for GA4 is still 30 minutes. And then kind of once the stream is created, within the account section, there's not too much left to do. So one thing we'd recommend looking at are Google signals. So under there, just allows Google to have another method for identifying users. This is really helpful in trying to kind of do session unification across different devices. That can be enabled under the data settings, data collection area within the admin. And then there's some account linking options as well. So GA4 links in quite easily with Google Ads, Ad Manager, Merchant Center, which I believe is a new option, Search Console, and then also, as David mentioned earlier, BigQuery as well. So there's a good opportunity to link up all the relevant accounts. There's one or two extra items that I haven't listed on the slide. So there's a few things like setting the data retention period. So by default, GA have set this to 2 months. We really recommend setting this to 14 months if you haven't already. And then there's also some different options for the attribution model. This is a bit of an upgrade from Universal Analytics. So the default model across 90% of the reports used to be last click. However, in GA4, you can kind of change this, and this isn't a fixed kind of set in stone option. If you decide you want to change it at some point, you can. The default, whenever you create a stream, is cross-channel data driven. You may want to change it to last click, particularly if you want to try and compare your kind of the data flowing through Universal Analytics and GA4. And then moving on to kind of the next bullet point here. So where things start to get a bit more difficult are mapping custom events from Universal Analytics to GA4. So UA kind of has the event category event action, event label, model. So really 3 different parameters. Each parameter will have its own value. The event-based model for GA4 is built on a unique event, and then each event will have its own set of parameters, each parameter having a value. So mapping these, we've kind of experimented with a few different options. One model we've used as an interim solution is to create an event. We called it Legacy UA event, which has 3 parameters, and this can be done quite easily in Tag Manager. So the first parameter we're calling UA category, and we're just passing our category value through. We've actually found this quite helpful just to understand, like we want to compare events being sent to each property, comparing those 2 events. It's been quite a novel solution. It's not something we'd recommend kind of long term because it's not leveraging the power for the event-based model, but as a short-term option, we found it really good. And then moving on to migrating goals. So that's one thing in GA4 that's quite important, particularly when you've linked your ad account and you want to import some conversion events in. There is a built-in tool. So I forgot to mention that at the moment within GA4 admin, there's a kind of a migration helper tool, which acts as a really helpful kind of checklist. You can kind of work your way down the list and tick things off. There is a goal import tool available, but there are kind of limitations as to what you can import. I believe you can import destination-based goals, but any kind of event-based goals you need to create manually within GA4. So that's one thing to bear in mind. Yeah, and then conversion events, they'll need to be added as conversion actions within Google Ads. So once you've linked those 2 accounts up, created your goal in GA4, you can then import that conversion action into Google Ads. And then next one on here, so migrating audiences. Again, Google have provided sort of a process for doing this. They've developed an add-on for Google Sheets, which exports all of your audiences from UA into a spreadsheet, and then you can kind of identify which ones you want to create in GA4. The audience definitions are much more powerful in GA4, so I think David mentioned that already. Yeah, there's some kind of AI-driven, there's several AI-driven options based on kind of recency, frequency, likelihood to purchase. So once you've kind of gathered enough data, those audience definition options become available. And then moving on to the next one, so migrating e-commerce measurement. I think this process could probably be a separate webinar on its own, and this is really going to vary depending on how you've implemented Universal Analytics. The Universal Analytics data layer, if you have that on your site, is technically compatible with GA4. So in some ways you can recycle what you've already got. If you don't have a data layer and you're kind of reliant on the old kind of tagging method, that's where potentially you're going to have to kind of build in these events from scratch. Alternatively, if you're on Shopify or BigCommerce, the Littledata app will literally kind of configure all of these events for you. So, and this is everything from kind of viewing an item list, that's going to be collection pages, selecting an item, viewing a product, adding to cart, entering checkout, all the different checkout steps, your purchase event, even refunds. So there's a long list of kind of e-commerce events that really need to be configured for GA4 to work well. It's worth saying that these events are kind of specified in a really strict manner so that the dimensions and metrics in GA4 are populated correctly. If you don't adhere to those, you'll start to see kind of odd behavior within GA4 reporting, particularly in the front end. And I think potentially this is where some of the frustration comes out in the tool, it's kind of not working because we're not passing the right data in. So as an agency, Littledata is something that we've been using for a while. We'd highly recommend. I just saw a quick question about refunds. So Littledata will work for offline events, and that's one of the reasons that we use it quite a bit. So things like we have a number of subscription-based brands. Any recurring orders are kind of that data is collected directly from Provide backend and then pushed into Google Analytics. David, I don't know if you want to add anything on that question.
Yeah. So thank you very much for adding this, Tom. So we use server-side tracking to hook into Shopify's webhooks and as well as the webhooks provided by the subscription vendor to capture all of the cart, checkout, purchase, as well as post-purchase activity. So post-purchase, if it means a refund or recurring order, all of that data will be tracked by Littledata server-side and linked with the initial buyer so that you know exactly based on the Shopify customer ID or BigCommerce ID, who was the initial buyer and how the revenue has to be distributed. So you get all of that out of the box.
Thanks, David. And the last point on here, I guess is kind of adding users. So this is a good point to really review who has got access to a different account. So account level access, property level access. So we'd recommend doing that. I think as a final bullet point, I'd really recommend the debug tool, which is again another new feature for GA4. So within the admin section, you'll see a debug option. And this is really helpful, actually, just kind of easier visibility of understanding what events are being passed to Google Analytics, and then for each event, what are all the different parameters. I personally found this quite a really good introduction into how Google has set up their data model. In terms of how you use the debug tool, we find the easiest way to get it working is to use Google Tag Manager. And then whenever you preview your tag, the default option is that a debug signal is added to your session. And then you should show as a debug user within the GA4 admin. So yeah, I really highly recommend that. Even if you're just curious, you want to explore what data is being sent currently, it's a really, really useful tool. Cool, I think that's it for me.
Right, fantastic. So now that we've talked through all of the steps and everything that's involved, I know that we talked before about kind of where you are in your journey, but now that you've heard about all the different steps, we would like to ask you how far along you are in your migration process. So the first answer here is we haven't started yet. The second is we've started, but there's still more work to do. Or 3, which would be ideal, we finished our migration. So give everybody just a moment to get their answers in, and we will look at the results. All right, so this is kind of where I thought most everyone would be, but hopefully you've learned a lot today that's going to help you to get on your journey. So about 27% haven't started yet. About 55% have started, but they still have more work to do. And then 18%, congratulations, you finished your migration. So hopefully you've learned some helpful tips today to get you going on your journey. But for those of you that haven't yet started, we're going to talk about some of the ways that that all of the companies represented here today can help you on your journey of getting migrated.
So how Littledata can help? Quite easily. We're going to help by instantly having all of your enhanced e-commerce events tracked in GA4 with 100% throughput. What this means is that you would simply have to install one app from the Shopify App Store. It's called the Littledata Analytics app. And in that process, Littledata will add its own tracking and server-side connections with Shopify or BigCommerce to stream all of the e-commerce activity into data destinations like Google Analytics 4, Facebook's Conversion API, or Semo.com. And in that process, you can get the complete, and you will get actually the complete marketing attribution for all conversions, which will mean that from a conversion tracking perspective, GA will always match Shopify or BigCommerce, and all transactions will be linked with the correct customer and with all of the marketing moments that led to that conversion in GA4. Of course, because we have a server set connected with Shopify and BigCommerce, we can also push a set of enriched event data sets to GA4 to facilitate advanced analysis for lifetime value or customer retention, customer reporting, and so on, as well as advanced audience building based on recency, frequency, and conversion rates. As Tom mentioned earlier as well, for any brands which have a subscription business model, we have a very valuable set of features which allow us to push all subscription data in Google Analytics so that merchants can very easily understand exactly how many one-time buyers they've acquired in a given period, how many new subscribers they've acquired, and how much recurring business they have processed. So all in all, with just one simple integration, you have full data visibility in GA4 about who your customers are, where they are coming from, how they are behaving on your website. And all of this is done with server-side tracking, which requires zero maintenance whatsoever. The process to implement it all takes, again, just a few minutes. And because everything is tracked server side, you can bypass any sort of tracking restrictions. You can even bypass regulations with iOS 14 and so on, so that no matter what's happening on the client browser, you're still going to get the enhanced e-commerce data in the data destination. And this can be very valuable for downstream destinations like Glew, where it is very important to have the complete data stream modeled. Now, I also want to mention that we have a very skilled and dedicated customer support team, and we are prepared to offer support for pretty much any type of merchant. And we encourage everyone to start a free trial with us, which is for 30 days. Yeah, Meg, you want to take it over from here?
Awesome. Yeah. So one of the biggest things I think with Glew that I think is really valuable to our clients is the historical data and reporting. So what's really neat about Glew is that we actually have the ability to have your universal data. So anybody that is a Glew client and already has their universal data in Glew, not only will we be able to store that, but then your new GA4 data, we'll be able to blend that data together. So any of the reports that you see in Glew Pro, like you don't have to worry about any of that changing. So I know a big thing with a lot of clients that I talk to is kind of like the year-over-year reporting. So that's something that's really valuable, is that you'll be able to, kind of see where you were in the past, and then also with GA4. But one of the things that I kind of talked about earlier was, as you embark on this journey, is just really determining what you want to build. And so making sure, to write down, and Tom and David kind of spoke about this, but what are the reports that you look at, and then, go back and look at and make sure, like, why you still have access to Universal, that's all set up in GA4. But again, I think like with Glew, the big thing is that, we've made it really seamless for you, so that that transition, you'll still be able to see like your historical data as well as the new data. And then, So here, this is where kind of we just outline it. So basically, the reports, if we have any Glue users, or, there's a ton of data on acquisition where, your different channel data. And so what's great, like I said earlier, is it's going to, you'll still have all of those different reports, and also, the ability to keep that UA data so you don't have to worry about when it does go away. And then also your GA4. So if anybody wants to go ahead and connect today, we will pull in 2 years of your historical data. And really the translation is seamless. I have one of my clients, a couple clients already on GA4, and it's been really neat just to look at their data and see how, there's no impact to them. The reports are there. And again, that year-over-year reporting, which is really valuable, is just being able to do that. So, yeah.
Megan, I don't know if you want to answer that question that's come in about GA4
Sure.
availability.
Yes. So we are live with the GA4. So if you want to just write us into Glue and let us know, we can definitely get your GA4 up and running for you guys.
Great, thanks. So just kind of coming into land with best practices and just some final thoughts, really. I think it's really interesting to see many of you have kind of partway through the journey of migrating. I think one of my reflections on maybe the last 12 months is that starting early is really important. And I know there's only 4 months left till the kind of deadline. But even starting today, like getting a basic tag on site, familiarizing yourself with the structure, would be one of my kind of biggest pieces of advice. I think one of the difficulties as an industry has been kind of reliance on universal analytics. It's been kind of bread and butter reporting tool, certainly for the past 10 years for a lot of brands. And so to move away from that is quite difficult, and trying to draw comparisons between the two has been quite difficult. But I think immersing yourself in the kind of the tool and the model, trying to understand how everything works, and actually just trying to just customize as much as possible. I think the current state of the GA4 front end, the kind of user experience, a lot of it is probably where universal analytics started, just very basic and missing a lot of reports that we'd expect to see. There is a kind of an option there's a library section within the standard reporting area for building out your own reports. And I think this is one of the things that we found useful, is identifying which reports are we seeing and using regularly in universal analytics, and how can we recreate those reports in GA4. I think my other recommendation, so the explore section has got some really advanced reporting options that just weren't easy to do within universal analytics. So one example is funnels, being able to create funnels and define a kind of shopping journey based on your brand, on your customer's experience, and then identifying where dropout is appearing. There's even options to view, exactly which users are dropping out, understanding if there's a trend, if there's a kind of friction point there. And then there's a few kind of like path options and like segment overlaps. So there's lots of really advanced functionality within GA4. And then just kind of really a final thought. I think one of the things that have made the transition much easier is kind of working with Littledata, being able to really rapidly spin up GA4 tracking. We've kind of talked about all the different events, but everything is captured straight out of the box. There's also lots of additional kind of custom dimensions. For us, we've wanted to try and better link our Shopify data with our GA4 data. So Littledata pass the Shopify customer ID straight through to analytics, and we can start to kind of join those things more easily. And And then Glue has been really essential actually in just trying to visualize and attribute data better. So particularly for our subscriptions, we find like the first order model has been really helpful in just understanding which channels are acquiring customers effectively. And I think, as Megan was sharing, being able to almost bring in all of our historic universal analytics data and then continue to move forward with GA4 data within the Glue platform is something that we're really excited by as an agency.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom. We actually had a couple of questions to come in. So one question from Valerie, which we got this too, but they received a message from Google that they're going to convert us. What happens if they do that before we get converted? So Tom, I know you touched on this a little bit, but.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I believe they'd actually set the 1st of March, I think, as a date. So basically what Google are planning to do, and I think possibly have already started to do, is automatically creating a GA4 property and kind of like pre-configuring a number of options. What I would recommend doing, if that hasn't already happened, is there's an option within your Universal Analytics account to suppress that, so you can prevent Google automatically creating a property, or alternatively create a GA4 property and it will ask it, there'll be a dialog box asking you to link it with a UA property. And really all that's doing is it's just saying, okay, well, Google, I've created a GA4 property for this Universal Analytics property. You shouldn't receive another prompt then after that point. Yeah, I think Elaine is just confirming you can turn that off.
Yeah.
Great.
And then we did receive one more question from Sarah. She says, my brand is in the midst of a migration from Salesforce to Shopify. Do you have any thought, or Commerce Cloud to Shopify? Do you have any thoughts around best practices around getting ready for GA4 while also being in the middle of a replatforming?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'll answer a bit and maybe David kind of chip in. One of the things we've been doing for migrations is actually, so if you do choose to look at Littledata, which I really recommend, is you can install Littledata kind of prior to your Shopify site going live. And we've been doing that with a number of our brands, and then looking at the kind of test dev data that's flowing into GA4. And then at the point where you kind of go live, it's just a case of updating kind of the measurement ID basically. Because in an ideal world, you kind of want seamless data in both your Universal Analytics property and your GA4 property. So that's what we've been doing. I don't know if you've got anything to add there, David.
Yeah, so pretty much along the same lines. It's best if you can set up a Littledata tracker on your dev instance so that you can start priming your GA4 property with the available enhanced e-commerce events from the storefront and checkout as well, to get acquainted with how the platform will look like, see what sort of reports you can build in GA4 based on that, as well as maybe also adding the Google site tag on the current websites to push the enhanced engagement data in the new property to stream some of that user and traffic data in the acquisition reports at the same time. This might be useful to see how the overall engagement metrics will change from the current platform and Shopify in terms of engagement rate, pages viewed per session, and overall high-level metrics. This, if any the migration is taking a longer time, it will be a useful thing to have some more historical data captured in GA4 as well. So I think these are the recommendations from our end.
Perfect. Well, while we are kind of wrapping things up here, we always try to be really mindful of how we follow up with everyone. We know this is a thought leadership webinar, but if you would be interested in learning or receiving more information about any of the companies that you've heard from here today, if you'll just select that, then it will help us in how we decide to follow up with you. And I will say, David, there was one more question that came in earlier, just asking if Littledata works only with Shopify and BigCommerce. So if you would just take a moment to respond to that, please.
Yeah, of course. So yes, Littledata works at the moment only with Shopify and BigCommerce. We have built very deep integrations with both platforms. So that's why we haven't yet moved to other sales platforms at the moment. So if you're selling on Shopify or BigCommerce, we can support you right now. Also, very important to mention, Littledata also works with headless builds. So if you have a Shopify checkout, but a custom front end on Sanity or Nacelle or whatever, we can also support with the server-side tracking for cart, checkout, and purchase activity. Cool.
All right, perfect. All right. If anyone has any further questions, please feel free to put them into the Q&A right now. Doesn't look like we received anything else, but we will be following up with you. Actually, hold on, just kidding. Oh, we just got a general comment, but they're saying that they partner with BigCommerce and they're always looking for new integrations. So could be a really good opportunity to work with Littledata. So that'd be fantastic. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. From all of us at Glew, we would like to thank our amazing partners for joining us today and delivering some really good content. We know this is top of mind right now for everyone, myself included, as a marketer. So thank you for delivering great content, and thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We hope that you have an awesome rest of your day and a great weekend.
Good luck on your migration.
Yep. I was going to start singing like good migration, but I was like, nobody needs that. Bye, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.